Live.
Yay!
Live. Where did my water go?
You brought water?
I had water. It's on the table.
Oh yeah, you should grab it right now. So hi everyone. Welcome to the Tech Valley Game Space stream of transmissions. We call it Devs Play, where we talk about inspirations from us developers.
Sometimes, but yeah, Taro will be streaming. I guess technically 7 games.
It's 2 games or 7 games, depending on which one you want to look at it.
Strap in.
We're gonna be in for a long ride. I will try to get this done within a 3-hour time frame. My plan is to go through Bit.Trip.Complete for the first 2 hours, and then Killer 7 on the last hour. Yeah, so that one's gonna be interesting. It is currently, probably you might notice that our stream is rated mature. That is because Killer 7 goes through a lot of really
bad.
Well, I mean, we're gonna like the parts that we are going to be showing for Killer 7. The game itself does go through some very dark topics, but we're only going to go through the what is called American audience safe topics, which is simply blood, gore, and language. There's nothing else contextually that is particularly surprising outside of the fact that people keep getting decapitated and dying for some deaths. So you know, like that's how people die in video games, and apparently in America that's completely safe. You know, that's just R-rated. So that's what we're gonna stick with. That's the only topic we're ever gonna cover for that game. But yeah, this is me speaking. You might be asked, I guess we should start transitioning the screen to the actual title screen in the Bit.Trip.Complete. I'm going to do a quick spiel of who I am. Again, my name is Taro Omiya. I'm basically the main developer of Omiya Games. And many of you who have actually played a couple of my Game Jam games, I make a lot of games for Ludum Dare. I had a string of games that I made for 1 game a month, which, as its name implies, you try to make a game every month. Though I haven't been doing that for a while now. And then I'm also the developer of Not a Clone. That was originally my pet idea that I put a team of 7 together and made. I want to talk about in both of these games a topic that is near and dear to my heart when it comes to video games, which is how to tell a story. I think, so that's something that I've been kind of obsessive with ever since I've played Mother 3, and particularly the ending, which I will not spoil for anyone who's going through the game. Needless to say, it is a very inspirational, like, it's a scene, the ending is a scene that really hits hard for me, in the sense that it made me, you know, it made me reconsider like what other ways we can tell stories in video games. I think a really good video that sort of covers like a surface level of what I'm talking about is Gamer's Toolkit video series. The one for The Last Guardian mentions The Last Guardian deliberately breaking its own rules for the purpose of story. And it works shockingly well in the sense that you know, that rule breaking is intentionally used to describe character development for one of the important characters in that game. So as mentioned earlier, this topic of how to tell a story using a game medium, to me, has kind of been a very obsessive topic for me. Every single Game Jam game I've made is built with that in mind, which is kind of funny because you'll play it and you're like, oh yeah, this guy is like comes up with really wacky ideas, but there's no story in any single one of them. I do technically have a story on every single one of the games that I make, but they're often kind of like post after development. I guess a better way of describing it is like I'm always interested in figuring out how certain game mechanics, these are rules in the game, like if you interact with something then X happens, or If you do something else, then Y happens. Those kind of individual rules. I'm always interested in seeing how the individual rules affect the player and how they feel. In this case, I'm going to bring up both Killer 7 and Bit.Trip.Complete, with starting off Bit.Trip.Complete because that's more child-friendly game in particular. Especially for Bit.Trip, I have actually the most respect for Bit.Trip in this category because they do a lot of really fascinating strategies to figure out how to tell a narrative with their games without almost ever saying any words, without using, in my opinion, very good cinematic scenes that are really telling. All the cinematic scenes are incredibly vague, symbolic, metaphorical, and for most people, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, I don't know what the heck that has to do with the game. It has plenty to do with the game, spoilers alert, but the cinematics themselves, if you're looking at it, you'll be like, I don't get it. I don't see the story in this game. And that is very intentional by design. The rest of a lot of other parts of the game, including the background effects, including the rumble that you experience on the controller itself, all that sort of stuff is intended to make you feel like a specific emotion, which in turn, when you put all the emotions together in all the 6 games that they've released as part of this series, I'm going to not include Runner 2, and then to be released Runner 3 in this category, by the way. Oh, it just started doing that.
That was my controller.
Oh, whoops. Alright. But yeah, I'm going to ignore those 2 games. But like, when you take into consideration how each and every single one of these games play, like a really big picture comes out of it. And I think it's important to understand and navigate like what that means.
Oh, I meant to turn off my game.
What?
My bad. I was trying to turn off my remote.
Don't do that.
Sorry. I totally take blame for that.
All right, technical issues. We'll be back. This is what happens.
I haven't used Wii in like mad long, other than the other night, but I forgot.
Oh, we have to start.
We have to start right from the beginning.
At least it.
You weren't too far in.
Let me grab the blue one.
Yes, because that was. I guess yours must have turned off when I was trying to turn it on.
Hi, Marcus. You're here in spirit. It should be loading the Wii emulator, because this is actually an emulator. I believe the Wii component of the Wii U. We're streaming this on Wii U, by the way. The Wii component of the... Oh, whoops. No, that's not what I wanted. No. Go back. Alright, apologies for our technical issues. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I was going to go on a slight tangent. In today's world, we have a lot of Let's Plays, and that is a sort of a concern of mine, because I like a lot of narrative games. That's kind of what inspires me to play games, especially JRPGs. I'm also the kind of person who has no patience in reading text, but that's besides the point. But I do like narrative in games. But you know, in today's sort of Let's Play world, where you can easily just load up, find someone who played the game, and then either read through the text, watch all the cinematic scenes only, or that kind of stuff. Like, basically be able to skip the gameplay parts puts a bit of concern on a lot of developers like us, because then how do you tell a story that isn't easily spoiled by YouTube players? And there's a couple of ways. The most common and popular one, of course, is procedurally generated stories. But what I personally like about this game, Bit.Trip.Complete, and as well as Killer 7 as well, is that despite the fact that you could literally just go through all the trailers, all the cinematic scenes, that kind of stuff, you're getting less than half the experience of that game. like when you play the game, you'll be like, holy crud, I didn't realize how much I was actually missing out on. And so, well, it's kind of hard to describe why you feel that way when you play these kind of games. But like, you know, when you feel it, you'll feel it. You feel what you're missing out on from just watching the stream. So consider this message as, yes, we're going to play this game for you, and you can kind of see it. But first off, we're not going to play through all of them. And even if you do go through the YouTube videos and try finding who else has Let's Play these games, keep in mind you're missing out on like 3/4 of the experience of the game, because a lot of these games do not rely on graphics. They do not rely on, you know, the audio. These are the two things that literally YouTube can feed at you. They do not rely on these techniques to tell their story. If you want to get the full experience of them, you must have a controller in your hand. So I'm going to do a little weird thing here. I'm going to have Aaron here. Aaron.
Yes.
Join in me. Make sure you just press the A button.
Okay.
We're going to go through this like a really hard drill. We're going to play through the first beat game. Here's the controls. You have to hit the beat back. They come from the right of the screen and they come in from the left. You control it by just tilting the Wii remote up and down.
Okay.
So we'll just play transition for a minute, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions from you, Aaron, as we're playing the game, as observations from you. We're going to watch this quick cinematic scene, by the way. I have no problems going through this, because like I said, you're going to probably watch this and you're going to be asking the question, what the heck just happened? Yeah, here's our title character, Commander video. Go, Commander video! Control the, yeah, there we go. Boop. Boop. So I'm orange and Aaron is blue, which doesn't make sense because I'm holding a blue controller, but that's beside the point. So how's it going so far, Aaron?
Good.
Right?
I think you're hitting most of the beats that I have.
That's fine. Alright. So, question. How does it feel like to move your controller up and down in position of trying to get the beats?
Weird in my hands a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. I think it does take a little while to get used to the motion controls in this game, but this specific game, that is. Not all the games actually uses motion control. We'll go over each of those. But let's see, what else is there? Any observations as to the rumble on your controller?
No, I'm used to the vibration type of deal.
Yeah, well, I guess what I mean to ask is how does the timing on when it rumbles feel like? When is it rumbling right now?
Like here and there.
I'm feeling like every single beat, right now. Like every time I'm saying ta, I'm feeling
every time it touches the.
Oh no, it's actually, is it? Huh,
yeah.
Weird, because it's rumbling every single time.
Like
for me.
For mine, it just feels like it's doing it every time it makes contact. That's what I'm feeling it.
So ta 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 ta. So what I mean to say is that, you know, right now the game actually does utilize controls, almost every single feature of it, in regards to making you feel the beat, like the actual rhythm behind the game. Because this is supposed to be a rhythmic game. By the way, if you didn't miss the title screen, we skipped it really hard. We were playing this on easy mode. This game is hard. So I am not going to bother playing this on normal difficulty, because normal difficulty is hard, and hard is just impossible. Anyways, so what I mean to say is, I mentioned earlier, you know, this is a rhythmic rhythm game. It's intended to make you feel the beats behind the game itself. And especially when it comes to like how the beats actually hit the panel, like this part here, it's guiding me back to the center. So this is like a part where it's making me do it's slowly teaching me pattern recognition on how to move the panel up and down. other parts in this level that's worth talking about, again, is the rumble. The rumble is happening on every single beat. If you when I say beat, if you imagine it like a music sheet, every time that line comes down to indicate that that measure has been finished, that beat, it seems to be hitting on almost every single one of those beats, which is important because that's exactly when they call it beats, these dots, actually make it to the left side of the screen. So, and basically then what the rumble is already teaching you is the timing on when all of these beats are supposed to reach all the way to the left side of the screen. So
no,
I have, huh?
I don't guess. I can't tell who's paddle.
You're blue.
I understand that, but whose paddle is taking the score?
Huh?
Who is taking the score? That's what I have trouble figuring out.
No, we're doing it co-op. The score is both of ours shared.
Okay. That
it's not competitive.
Okay.
So basically there's the game. It's just watching the beats go to the left side of the screen and so forth. As you can see, this is just kind of like a tutorial level. That's kind of like... I'm actually going to stop in the middle here. So compare that to the second level. So one thing I want to quickly mention is the fact that the controls in this game is fairly one-dimensional. You move the controller up and down to move the panel up and down. Sorry for all the noises in regards to the chairs.
That was me. I was trying to
get
better position. Oh, 2 per thing now?
Yep.
Oh gosh. And you doesn't do the score like the other one.
So right now the rumble is happening a lot. It's still to the beat, but it's happening a lot faster. Also, you might notice that the when we hit the notes is not exactly perfectly rhythmic. There's a little weird delay. So like that had a weird jazz-like delay to it. Doop, boop, boop, doop, doop, bump, 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 bump. So like, it's already kind of like trying to create this jazz-like delay beat, swing beat right now, which is kind of important because, you know, that means that unlike the first level where it was like more constant and you can easily tell when it's going to hit the left side of the screen, now it's a lot harder to tell. So already from the level design perspective, not only are they making a harder game, but they're making it harder in the sense that the rhythm is a little offbeat now. So now you have to work with this new unusual, tricky beat that often feels like they're just kind of tricking you. Which makes sense. Sooner or later we'll get to the parts where we get to the letters, unlockables. Yeah, there's actually a particular reason why I choose complete. Not even the Steam version have the unlockables features that this game has, so. Oh wow, these are really weird beats. By the way, these notes that are hitting, that you hear when it hits the panel are entirely procedural. You can easily verify this by pushing any other button and it'll just play its own kind of notes. Also worth noting, so this game has 3 modes. Right now, Hyper, right now it's Mega. Yeah, Mega, Hyper. Hyper is normal, and then there's Nether.
Are we in Minecraft?
No. Nether... Well, we should try getting into Nether. Here. So, to get Nether, you have to skip everything. So we'll just let it go to Nether on purpose. Yeah, let it be danger. This is what happens when you go to Nether. So now all the notes that you're hearing is coming from our controllers. There are no sounds coming through the stream at all. And then we're back to normal. So when it hits when it hits our paddle, all it just plays is a single Atari sound effect. which I think is a really nice effect. But at the same time, I'm not entirely sure I'm a huge fan of the game getting harder as a consequence of your poor performance. Anyways, but yeah, this does have like a nether mode. So this is going to be skipping out on it. So I mentioned earlier that this game has some unlockables, which is worth talking about. The unlockables are available on this screen. Ta-da! And almost exclusive to the Bit.Trip.Complete are letters. Where under Beat, my Wii remote is acting funky. There we go. It comes up with a bunch of text. I'm gonna see if I can just skim through this real quick, but here it is. Each game in the Bit.Trip series represents life moments in a human's existence. In this case, Commander Video's existence. The following letters will give you insight into the story we've been trying to tell. Which means that this is kind of an interesting point, because so far, Aaron, from what you've seen, did it look like the game had a story?
No.
No? Right? Like, so a lot of people would think, a lot of casual players would think that, oh, it's just a game about bouncing beats on the other side of the screen.
I kind of pictured it more of like Just Dance.
Just Dance, right, exactly. But there is a story in this game, and more importantly, what's interesting about it is, even as the game was, individually coming out. So a little context: these were WiiWare games. They came in individually. They were originally for downloadable on the Wii console. But each and every individual one of these games actually had a story in them. But the reason why we're going through all 6 of these games rather than just one of them is because this game is actually more interesting looking at it from a whole than from looking at each game individually. So with that in mind, let's actually go through the rest of this. Bit.Trip Beat is the first step in life that Commander Video takes. You'll note in the opening scene that he is flying freely through the ether, completely unhindered by any sort of physicality. So already we have an explanation for what that beginning scene was all about. That was actually supposed to mean something. Each level represents various stages in Commander Video's transformation, from an ethereal one to a corporeal one. In transition, he has to deal with the unfamiliarity of physicality, as represented by the enormity of comets and asteroids that you saw in the background. Towards the end of the level, he sees other people returning from the corporeal and becoming ethereal again. In descent, he passed to a point of no return and is caught up the pole of physical conception, after which, in growth, his actual body begins to develop. So right now, it seems to be that they're largely reliant on what kind of background imagery is happening. As the game goes further, in my personal opinion, they get a lot better at making the level design itself and taking advantage of the game mechanics of each game that they have. They take advantage of that to create a very specific sort of emotional feeling. So this is just kind of the developer them saying, like, this is what we intended to do, this is how we did it. And it's so far been largely reliant on graphics as well as beat-related stuff. Like, as mentioned earlier, the first level is all about trying to stick with a very consistent and easy-to-memorize beat. But as you get to the second level, it starts doing this weird jazz-like thing where certain beats actually becomes a little delayed. We're gonna jump right into Core. Core is only single player, but this is actually my favorite game so far. And already we're seeing some more complexity in the game. Now it's 4 direction. I have to actually use the arrow keys, the touchpad, or the control pad is the word I'm looking for. The control pad No, there's one player only. Control pad to kind of figure out where I want to shoot. So, by the way, interesting, worth noting, perhaps you haven't noticed this, but to actually navigate the menu, you have to play it as if it's like the normal game itself. Oh, I'm missing all of these. Ha! There we go. So that's kind of a quick and easy practice session. As you recall, in the first game, Beat, our Commander Video is now completely corporeal, and he has just been born into the world. And this is what the world looks like to him, is what the visuals say. I'll do my best to actually not bother to explain a lot of these videos, but they do actually mean something. I mentioned earlier, it's actually fascinating to see how the fans reacted to each of these games. I highly recommend reading through a lot of their fan theories, especially after playing through the game, because this game, again, is most fascinating once you've played through all of them and kind of realize there's a pattern in how each of them were kind of created. Also, I am not doing great. There we go. Whoops. Dot, 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 ta. I have the rhythm. I lost the rhythm. Do, 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 do. So already, like, I'm not dealing with one dimension anymore. I'm dealing with 2 dimension. So again, the rumble pack right now, the rumble is on the beat of when you're hearing the drums. Boom, boom, boom. It's rumbling exactly on the drum parts. Now you can already see this game is going to get very complex right at that part because holy crud, there's a lot of visual noise. Do, do, ha, ha, yeah, ta, 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 ta. Interesting thing worth noting about each game is that they add a new mode to it. So earlier there was only Hyper, Mega, and Nether in Beat. This adds a Super. Oh. Let's see if I get to Mega, because we were just in Hyper. Oh no, I think we are already at the top. Might be wrong. This is kind of important because based on which mode you're in, they count as sort of pseudo lives. It makes more sense on the later games what I mean by that. But like, okay, so now I'm back to Mega. You can tell from the graphical change. So I'm now in Super. Oh my goodness. Ah. So this is actually my favorite game because it is probably the most rhythmic of the game. And this game just likes to trick you all over the place. I wonder if we can get that far, because there are parts in the game where this game gets devilish. Like, it does not care for your life. Oh, oh no, oh, ah, ha, 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 ta, 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 ti, ha, ta, 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 ta. Well, you can tell that I'm trying to play through this as if it's kind of a game. So, fan theory. Again, these are not part of the letters. You're going to have to look through the letters yourself and play the game to find out. But fan theory says that this is the point of the game where Commander Video has become a baby and is just trying to figure out how to use his own body. And of course, by just watching, you're not going to get that story at all, because all you're just seeing is me just tapping beats. But when you
Commander Video right now
in the cinematic scenes,
oh.
Actually the turret itself is Commander Video.
Okay.
That's how the canon works, I believe. I am missing everything. So this is a cycle where you can tell I'm just supposed to go in counterclockwise position to cycle through the beats. But like, I think actually that one flipped on me. The first time it was clockwise, and then now it went to counterclockwise. There's a lot of points in this game where it does that. And I'm just gonna tap them. Yep. Boop, 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 boop. But yeah, there's a lot of pattern recognition, pattern memorization in this part of the game. Alright, so hopefully now that we got past that part, we should start seeing weird beats that kind of goes more towards a jazz. Ba ba ba. Ba 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 ta 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 ta. Oh gosh. So I'm failing miserably. Ba ta ta ta. Ta 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 ta. I think that's, oh no, I missed it. Oh no, I did everything wrong. Yes, I'm gonna die. This is what Nether looks like in this game, folks. Yeah, I did it. Alright, so now, so I think that's good enough. But you can already tell from that point that, you know, the beats kind of go in a weird, jazzy sort of fashion. So yeah, like, the beginning of these levels are all going to be a bit tutorial-esque, but I think what's interesting worth noting about Core is that whereas Beat feels more about like just kind of understanding the rhythm, kind of understanding emotional things, Core like demands precision. It, holy crud, wants you to be like smack down, exactly the right time, exactly the right place, and so forth. So like already you're getting a lot more difficult game, and that to me kind of puts like a weird rising action to the game where things are just kind of tough, but you as a player are trying to overcome that. So let's kind of go through the next game here real quick. I'm gonna actually do something a little different here. I'm gonna actually play 2 different levels for Void, because to me this is the game that really utilizes game mechanics as a way of telling its story, the most. By the way, you might notice this is the first time I'm actually connecting my nunchuck controller. Yep, this is the first more complex game where that's actually required. So there's 2 different levels right here, Ego and id. I'm gonna go with id for now. So here we get to see a nice cinematic scene. Or yay, because Commander Video has now figured out how to use his body. So fan theory gets a little weird around this game area. But if you couldn't tell, id, ego, and the last level is super ego, by the way, are all Freudian terms. So these are supposed to be like psychological levels. The gameplay is very simple. Unlike the last game, it's not rhythmic at all. I get to just kind of move the control stick around, and that's my little Void moving around. And then you might notice that by collecting black dots, I'm growing a lot larger.
Those are the Commander videos?
This is Commander Video, yes.
And it's all his ego, super ego, and id?
Yes. This is, well, presumably this is his id.
Why do they think this is his id?
Well, that's the level's name. So this is super. I think that, as you mentioned earlier, this does add a new mode to it. So we just made it to super. We've already went past hyper, mega, and we're now in super, and I don't know what the next one is, to be honest. And then when I tap the A button, that shrinks me back down to size. The reason why you want to avoid doing that is because you get higher points and thus higher bonuses if you're able to retain your larger size. But obviously larger size makes it easy to end up collecting the white dots, which you don't want to do, as well as the fact that it makes you slower. So like here, I'm already forced to shrink, which actually becomes a really clever point in the game. So right now, if you couldn't tell, for the most part, this level is encouraging me to be as large as possible. I mean, there are formations in how the beats are coming in that mostly prevents me from becoming as large as I want to be, but for the most part, it's working pretty darn well. What does it say in the background here? Ultra? Oh, okay, yeah, we're in Ultra mode. So this is what Ultra mode looks like. Yeah, oh, okay, I'm missing that. You cannot miss beats in this, that's actually a penalty. So you might also notice that because this game is not rhythmic anymore, they just kind of have to do like this weird thing with the notes when I collect something. for it to play. Which is really unlike the rest of the game in the series. Okay, and I'm just too slow. Okay, so that's basically the beginning, but again, like I said, as you might notice, for the most part of the game, it's kind of encouraging you to be as large as possible. Which kind of makes sense given the first cinematics that we just seen, because Commander Video was trying to be, you know, was really being shovey and pushing all his other friends, if you can argue that, aside. Oh, they're coming from the corner. Whoops, I didn't notice that. So like here, I'm being ridiculously large. Oh, there's the white dots. I could have avoided that. Darn it. I think they're coming from this corner. Yep. Oh no, I missed. No! Oh gosh. Oh no. So this formation is already forcing me to be of a very specific size. And then there's like a wall coming up in the left side of the screen, so that's kind of overwhelming for me. I'm trying to stick to the right side of the screen, which already from a small level design perspective is like already evoking like a very specific motion to me. And then it gave me a power-up called Repellent, so it allows me to repel all these white dots. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, no, that didn't happen. Oh, no, that... I'm not good at bullet hells. Oh gosh. Floyd was still the easiest boss in Undertale. Oh no! Oh gosh! There, got it. Oh. Alright, hopefully I'll get to the part that I really want to talk about. I guess not. Alright, well, I think this is good for now. Let's go to the second level, because I did mention that this game in particular I find the most interesting from a narrative point. So here we have this really large Commander Video who's being rude. Oh no! So remember I said that in level 1, it felt like the level in general tried to encourage my void right here to be as large as possible. You can already see this being immediately being overturned in the second level, where, holy crud, I'm trying my best not to grow as large as possible. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. It's like, see how movement is no longer such a huge issue for me, so long as I don't want to collect any white dots. So, oh gosh, I messed up on that one. So like this level in particular is incredibly straining for a player, because they're now dealing with so many more white dots than before that it's size control becomes a major issue. And to me, like, that's kind of what I love about this game series. They changed the play dynamic between the first level and the second level for this game. But because of that, now I get a story out of it. I mean, I think like the first story was about being greedy. The second story is now being about able to control your size and not be greedy at all. It's every decision that I have to make here has to be a measured decision. Oh no.
Is this still it?
No, this is ego.
Okay.
Oh no. Oh gosh, what is this going on? Oh. Oh gosh. Also, the music in these games are awesome. If you're just looking for the official soundtrack, you're gonna miss out a lot because a lot of it is about the procedural music generation. Yeah, I'm not doing well at all. Oh gosh, I missed that. But yeah, like, this is really about control, figuring out where, you know, what you need to do, how to avoid getting any of the white dots. Okay, it's like already you can see that I'm hitting almost every single white dot rather than last time. Also, I guess we're gonna get to a point where we can actually see what the nether looks like. So like already here, like I said, already from the second level, we get a new story out of it. Like, this is not a game about trying to be greedy and getting all the black dots. This is a story about avoiding white dots entirely and trying to figure out how to maintain your size so that you're not dealing with ridiculous scenarios. Okay, I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. Okay, that scared me a bit. Oh yeah, see, that was bad because I was being greedy. All right, so that's kind of that game. So Void already, the game itself starts the game's levels itself starts telling a significantly important story about like control and stuff, and this kind of gets better and better as the game goes along. We have Runner, which according to fan theory, what time is it?
It's 9 o'clock. 9
o'clock. Okay, we're doing fine. So, Runner is a little more complex in controls, but it's actually simpler than Void is because I don't have to deal with analog controls anymore. I'm gonna go with, let's see, this is jump, this is duck, this is kick, and these are springs. So let's start here. Sorry, the reason why I'm skipping through is because a lot of these levels are actually just tutorial. So here are the controls, you know, A to jump, kick, up to do the springs. You might also notice that, you know, oh wait, I made a tiny mistake. We must see this beginning cinematics. So that's Void, by the way. We did it! Captain Video has crash landed and has become an adult. So here is the adult stage of our wonderful hero Commander Video. And this is jump, but I'm gonna quit that out. Yes, you had a question.
I was gonna say, like, this is the only game that they seem to make like a spin-off on.
Yeah.
Was there like an intentional reason for that, or was it just this is the most popular?
This is the most popular one. I disagree with fans that says this is the best game. Core is the best game. Fight me.
I could see this. This seems like the most accessible for like a casual player.
Right. So this is a little different from the previous one, in the sense that you hitting the beats no longer play the notes. It's just yours. When you succeed, the timing on when the notes plays is based off of when the game triggers that. Oh yeah, this is the beat of when the music should be playing. Also interesting of note is that the switch between, like, say, super, hyper, and whatever, the different modes, is done by a plus sign. I think this is the only game that does that. So that's down. You can already kind of see, like, the large number of complex actions I'm taking here. That there's a lot to, like, kind of, as a player, you need to maintain. Stairs are evil in this game, holy crud. Stairs are the worst! I make it look easy, those stairs are terrifying! Anyways. And then it also has this is, I guess, their version of Nether.
It's like Pitfall.
Exactly. I'm not gonna even bother. Yeah, that's my height. That's my name. I'm gonna skip over to the more later levels. So I guess Odyssey is a really long level, but we can kind of enjoy what the music would sound like if I got it right. But yeah, Odyssey is one of the longest levels, actually. I'm not gonna bother to collect all the gold because I'm not good at this game. Oh yeah, I should have brought this up. So, fail state. Fail state is actually kind of an important topic to talk about for all these games. As you notice, if I fail on this game, I just start back from the beginning of that level, which means I don't have to go back too far. In all the other games, it's a literal game over. For Beat, if you lost a game, if you lost on the level, you have to start from the beginning all over again. And the score is recorded right off the bat from there. So that means, that's that. Whatchamacallit? I'm forgetting the name. Core is the same story. Core actually adds in a thing called Bomb, which lets you destroy all the beats on the screen so they don't have to deal with them anymore. But that said, that game is hard. When you lose, again, just like Beat, you have to start from the beginning. Oh, that's duck. Right, purple rocks are duck. I forgot about that. So now I have to start all over again, and like you can already tell from how disappointing the music is, I'm like, oh, I feel bad. Those plus signs are like, cool. Yeah, you can already tell that the gold sound effects does not play when I collect it. It plays almost a small beat after it. Kind of keeping to the tone of this is supposed to be a rhythmic game. I have talked to a few friends who are a big fan of this game, and they did say that Runner is pretty much their favorite. I am the only one that disagrees with that opinion, but that's okay. I totally understand.
Sure, it was like most people's like introduction to it.
Right.
Like I mean, I honestly.
Oh, that's dumb.
That's awful. This is like I played through the second Bit.Trip Runner, and that's like exactly what happened. It's like you hit something far enough along that you like lose your train of thought, and then the exact same thing would happen.
Anyways, you were talking about this is the introductions for you.
Well, the introduction for me was actually in Super Meat Boy with the first bonus stage level.
Yeah.
Where you play as Commander Video or unlock him, I forget.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you unlock. You can play through his level and then you unlock him after you play through his challenge levels.
Which was. I'm trying to remember the timeline of all that. I know the second one was kind of weird because like it kind of like brought Super Meat Boy into that. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know if there's like a plot that's connected with like this overall plot, but it seemed to be more like a indie game hits sort of.
Super Meat Boy does become friends with Commander Video, and they eventually go. Spoiler alert! They go off to fight against one of the bosses that appears in this game.
Is that in what game is that in?
This game right here, Runner.
Oh. So he actually shows up?
Yeah, Super Meat Boy does show up in in Runner.
Hey.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, forget it. We're done. But if it wasn't obvious, like that is also a rhythmic game, just like Core and all that sort of stuff. A lot of it is about memorizing what the button combination is you're supposed to play at, in what order, and what beat. And again, it just kind of keeps hold of this whole music thing. A lot of players who play each of these games, not just Runner, will say like it's interesting that you're playing a game that feels like you're composing music, right? And as mentioned earlier, the notes that the plays are procedurally generated, so every person is actually going to get a completely different music each time they're playing. So in a way, this is kind of the game's like own procedural element on creating different music, and with that, each player creating their own storyline. We're gonna go to Fate. Fate is my least favorite, I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like that is also intentional on the designer's point of perspective, because whereas so I forgot to talk about the fail state on all the games. Well, I kind of went very briefly into it. Pretty much every game before Runner, and this actually includes Fate as well. If you fail, they just throw you right at they just say game over and then throw you right at the beginning of the level. And the levels on Beat, all the games except Runner. Like Runner, you can tell those levels were really short, but the levels in like all the other games are super duper long. So like it's really punishing when you fail the game. Beat in particular is especially punishing because you only have like 2 modes to deal with. So that one's like really
audio
bad.
off for
On the desktop?
yeah.
Whoops.
I think most of it was coming through.
Wait, you didn't tell us, Chris?
What?
Was there audio playing throughout the games?
Yeah.
Oh, then I guess that was not a problem. So, anyways, so in that sense, then, Runner is arguably the most optimistic game, right? Because failure only concludes to a short, it's a slap in the wrist. You just go back from the beginning of that first level, and that's just it.
Oh.
There it is, Super Meat Boy. So, if you haven't noticed, Commander Video made a couple of friends.
What is that?
That's a indie game company logo. And here's our boss, our arch enemy, and we're gonna go on the Fate line. So the game controls are simple. You move left and right to move across this level, and then you point to shoot things. Now this might be a little strange because we're kind of going back to the pointer is not playing with me. I might have to concentrate more than I like. Okay. So this is basically, we should do. Okay, so that's Big RoboTube, I think it's the name. It's a RoboTube is in the game company. I don't recall what game they made though.
Hate to ask if they're still existing. When did these games come out?
Oh my goodness, I don't remember when. It was a long time ago. I'm gonna say like almost 14 years ago. Okay. So if you couldn't tell, whoops. The actual collider box on Commander Video is just that plus sign. So I just need to make sure that none of those bullets make it to the plus sign. Okay, that was not good. And again, this adds a new mode to the whole shenanigan. Yet another new mode to the game series as per tradition. I don't recall what it is. Oh, extra. There it is.
Says the Bit.Trip Beat came out in March 2009, and then Flux, which is the last one, came out in 2011.
Ah.
Actually,
so it's worth noting that by shooting, I make myself slow. Okay, I am doing terrible on this game. But yeah, this is supposed to be like a more, if you couldn't tell from the music, this is supposed to be the more sadder, melancholic game amongst the series. And it kind of shows because in rare form, you're being very destructive in this game. Let's get Super Meat Boy. Here we go. See, it's Meat Boy right there. Oh, that block was there. I'm blind. The pointer disappearing is annoying. So again, just like Void, you know, everything is kind of offbeat. And more importantly, the game is very constrained. Like, there was no way I can avoid that bullet. So the controls is very constrained. There's not a whole lot of place to move around. There's a lot less pattern memorization in this game, and more about just like frantically aiming and shooting. Oh, I got the not so great bullet patterns. I swear I did a lot better in practice runs. Oh, Giga is the new one. Yeah, we got Giga. Giga. Hopefully we'll get to a point where we get to the first boss, because fortunately the levels in this is not too long. So again, this is the more somber part. Let's see. I'm trying to think of how, in level design and control-wise, this game is also interesting. Okay, so yeah, Commander Girl is probably the best. This sounds awful lot like we're getting close to the boss. So, limiting the player controls is something that I personally find fascinating. It's more interesting from my perspective than it is you know, giving the player the most amount of controls. Like, I know some people will probably, like, I know a lot of people who likes to kind of be able to have the most control over the scenario that they have, like, for example, being able to customize player controller or that kind of stuff. But I'm often more fascinated in games when they make some very decisive decision on limiting how much control you have over the situation. So for example, in this game, I can't move up or down. I can only move left or right, which means that I'm at the mercy of whatever this fate line says, right? And to me, like I said, I find that fascinating because they say a lot about what the game developers want you to be able to do and don't want you to be able to do. The don't part in particular is interesting to me because like that kind of asks the question of where do they not want to give you control at? Is it the part of the storyline? Is it part of how they want you to make you feel powerful? Because this game decidedly does not make you nearly as powerful as most bullet hell shooters would make you feel like, because it's less interested in about, well, first off, as you can tell, there aren't that many bullet patterns in this game. They're just, all the bullets just kind of aim towards you. There's also the fact that you can't, you can't move up and down at all. So again, you're kind of constrained into this pathway forcefully. So by limiting that controls, you feel, you kind of get the sense that, oh yeah, this is supposed to be more of a somber game. It's supposed to be more about making you question the current situation that you're in, which is you're doing, unlike the previous other games where either you're just kind of beating your, trying to beat some sort of self-limitation, self-imposed limitation or anything like that. This is kind of the first game where Commander Video, and also the only game, not to speak of it, Commander Video, from the very beginning, you can tell actually has an enemy, and is very destructive for that matter, and things kind of go downhill very quickly from that game. So fan theory says this is a game where Commander Video kind of succumbs to his anger and joins the dark side as a consequence of it. And then we get to Flux. Who would like to join in on this important? We finally actually come back to being able to do co-op here. So anyone would like to join in on this co-op journey?
I'll do co-op.
Sure, cool.
Is this sideways?
Yes. All right. And Flux is interesting. I haven't talked about the endings for a couple of these games, but this is what I mean by Flux is interesting.
Are you controlling it?
No, this is the actual cinematic. So who has any idea what's going on so far? All right, so
leaving him.
Huh?
His friends are leaving him.
Oh yes, that's a good catch. Exactly what's happening. His friends, he's finally alone. I mentioned earlier he succumbs to his dark side. The only way to defeat the final boss, spoiler alert, in Fate, is to run into the boss, effectively killing yourself. So this game, then, as made pretty explicitly from the last game, this is after death. And you might notice that this is almost exactly like how Beat is, the first game. That is a very deliberate choice. By the way, I'm the solid line, and then John is the dotted paddle center. Oh.
We missed one?
No, we didn't. Oh, now we did.
No, we didn't.
Oh gosh. There is a lot of mode to this one. Meta is by far the highest one, and let's see if we can get it up to that high. I would like to, because meta is actually really fascinating from a background and visual perspective. But anyways, this basically is a callback, which makes it more fascinating. Definitely compared to B, I definitely think this game stands on its own, because in a lot of ways, it doesn't feel like Beat at all. Of course, in a lot of ways, it feels like Beat exactly. But you might notice that there's no color difference between any of these beats. So you're off to the limb of just watching very carefully how they, how the movements of it actually react as. But another thing that Fate is interesting, or Flux is interesting about, is that it's, again, its end state. What happens when you die is you actually go back to the last checkpoint, which no other game, with an exception of Runner, actually did. Well, by Runner doesn't have checkpoints per se, but here it is. We came to the checkpoint. So if we die here, we're going to actually return back to that checkpoint instead of losing anything. And for that matter, interestingly, we don't lose any score if we go back to the checkpoint as well. It just reverts our score back to what it looked like before we hit that checkpoint, if memory serves correct. I may be wrong on that, but basically then dying has very little penalty in this game, which makes it, oddly, for a game that happens after death, a very optimistic game as well. Oh, right, so endings. I'm trying to remember.
It's happening here.
Oh, we got to meta, great. So what does the background look like so far?
It's like a solar system.
Yeah, it is. So, according to the developers, the meta background is supposed to reveal the true nature of this game. That background is not going to change at all, it's just going to be a solar system for the longest time. But yeah, what I mean to say is, okay, so I was talking about end sequences so far. Beat's boss ends with what looks like basically you. It turns into Pong, literally. Well, never mind, that's kind of going all off topic. But what I mean to say is, starting with Runner in a way, this game series does a really interesting, starts implementing really interesting ways of ending. So, for example, in Runner, you just have to kick the boss at the very end. It's very, very hard to mess up. So, like, you have this hard to mess up ending on Runner, but in this rare scenario that you do, you end up getting the only game over that exists in the game. Like, the game kind of makes fun of you for failing at the very end. Now that in and of itself doesn't make it all that fascinating, because as mentioned earlier, most players... Oh, avoid. Oh. So any circles you want to avoid. Also, this is a return to the Wii remotes actually doing a beat-based rumble, because I don't think any other games since Core does that. Oh gosh. But where was I going with this? Oh right. So I mentioned earlier that I failed you there. Sorry. I mentioned earlier that, which game was it? Oh, Fate. So Fate ends with you requiring to tackle head-on onto the boss, thus killing your player. Like, that's already like a counterintuitive thing to do. By the way, that boss, you do have to shoot it. It's just that at the very end, it just kind of stays there, hanging still. And thus, you have to do the one and the only thing you can do, which is to run into the boss, thus killing your player character. Flux, we're not going to get anywhere near here, because holy crud is the last boss, the hardest thing in existence. But, okay. See, that's our final boss right there, all those avoid circles. Oh.
It's very hard to tell, like, who's who.
Yeah, that's... I got it. Okay. Alright, so where was I going with this? Oh, right. So Flux ends really interestingly. There's a secret level right after the final boss. And you play as normal in the beginning, but then the screen turns completely white. And, you know, you're just going to stare at that and you're like, what do I need to do? And as it turns out, the answer to that question is you're supposed to let go of the controller and just let it sit on top of the computer, or just let it sit on the table, thereby concluding that game with a game over per se. The line of thinking being that you have to abandon the game to end the series, just kind of metaphorically speaking. Which I think makes it one of the, you know, which is really a fascinating way of ending the game. Like, the only way to end the game is to not play it. Although at that point, literally there's nothing you can do. The screen turns completely white, so it's just, you're just kind of forced to figure it out on your own at that point. My favorite fan theory actually about the second ending, there's a couple of fan theories about it, so I'm going to talk about two. But, you know, as mentioned earlier, the ending is that you're forced to put down the controller. One version of the fan theory's idea of how that game ends is because the screen turns completely white, and most people's TV's borders are black, that makes it look an awful lot like Commander Video's own head. So the fan theory goes, the game on Flux ends after Commander Video watches you let go. Which I thought is like a really fascinating way of reading that. Another fan theory that is very similar is when the Bit.Trip series was announced, to kind of hype up the fans, they made an ARG game, which ended with a reveal of this YouTube video of these two guys just kind of searching in the desert and then finding a TV screen that they turn really scared of or something. But people who watched it realized that that video is actually supposed to be Commander Video's head, and presumably Commander Video was giving them visuals of his own life, or excuse me, not his own life, a message to send over to the people on Earth before he dies. Which means that when the screen turns completely white, that is him just kind of watching us let go of his message and die finally in peace. So this entire game then is about, presumably, Commander Video's entire journey throughout space, corrupted from a lot of crashes and amnesia and whatnot from whatever video game symptoms there might be. But like, that's kind of like this game's storyline then. It's a... Oh. It's weird. Yeah, ad is a really weird mode. Are you doing alright, Anthony? Alright, cool. What time is it right now?
9:30.
9:30. We'll kind of continue a little bit more. Yeah, we'll do.
See ya. So, did they, like, figure that they were going to end the series like this?
I think so, honestly, because it's really tightly fit from a narrative perspective. Because I don't know if you noticed this, but the way I'm kind of describing it, I'm describing it as if this is an entire story about, you know, each stages of Commander Video's life, about him understanding what it means to become an adult, what it means to have responsibility, what it, you know, what it's like to join the dark side, that kind of stuff. But I should say, when I say like joining the dark side and that kind of stuff, even though technically, you know, Fate has a villain, a better way of wording that game is about, okay. A better way of wording that level game in general is, it's about Commander Video succumbing to, it's still about the character itself. It's about him succumbing to, not greed per se, fear of sorts. No, anger, excuse me. Succumbing to anger. Because a lot of the titles of the levels, it starts with determination, and then starts ending with like patience, and then anger, and so on and so forth, until he's just like fed up with the whole thing. Okay.
It's interesting that like even the UI is like completely reversed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, correct.
I think when I like first like there was a Steam sale where I think I like bought on the Bit.Trip because I didn't realize that I thought it was like only runner. But I think I played them out of order, and I think I played this one and then the first one, which was kind of interesting.
That probably is a more favorable way of playing it because, I mean, this game is kind of hard, but it's really forgiving.
Yeah.
Whereas Beat is unforgiving. Holy crap. Shoutouts to Destructoid. I unfortunately do not remember the journalist's name, but the one journalist who like religiously covered this game was quick to figure out that this game actually had a story, and he was more closer to the story than I've ever expected. Because again, this doesn't really look like a game that has a story to it, but he was able to figure it out as quickly as within the first game. Now, maybe because the developer kind of hinted at that or something, I don't know, but it's really fascinating that he was able to pull it off because, because of that fact, like, there's now all these fan theories as to what the heck this game is supposed to mean. And I really think that this game wouldn't have been nearly as interesting if there wasn't a lot of fans who were like, what does this game mean? Why is it that each game plays so differently? And, you know, as mentioned in the letters, the games playing differently was a very intentional decision. And it's that intentionality that I have a lot of respect for this entire series. Alright, so here hopefully we're going to beat the boss. Can someone memorize what the score is up there? Because I have a good feeling we're going to fail this.
It's like
4,600.
I think it's like 4 million.
Yeah, 4,642,100. The reason why I ask is because I want to make sure I'm right in regards to the score tracking. And that even if you fail this game, it just reverts your score back. So you might notice that by playing co-op, our paddles are actually a bit smaller than the opponents. That's intentional because one player's paddle is supposed to be larger. Oh gosh.
Oh, that was bad.
Wait, did that paddle actually hit that beat? Oh yeah, it just reverted our score back to normal. So yeah, I just wanted to confirm that was right.
Do you want to try and beat this, or?
No, I think we're good, honestly. So that's it, basically, for this series. I don't know if I did a good job at it. I was kind of scatterbrained in regards to explaining it. But like I said, this, if you weren't grasping at all the notes I was talking about, basically this game is about a life and death of one video game character, which, in hypothetically speaking, is supposed to be a fairly universal story. Obviously, everyone's background is different and that kind of stuff. But with that in mind, that makes it so that each part of the game is then the reason why, like I say, this game is more interesting when taken as a whole rather than per each part of the game, each game individually, is because each part of the game individually is just talking about a stage in life, like, you know, just a curve, a bump in what is actually a larger story arc. And I just think that it's really fascinating on the way that this indie developer really thought through and tried to come up with these numerous different ways of kind of conveying that story, largely relying on controls in this case, because, you know, as mentioned earlier, largely in regards to all game mechanics and controls in this case, because as the game goes further along, it becomes less punishing, and even when the game gets harder, like, it makes it easier to reverse those mistakes quickly. And furthermore, as you're going through the game, the controls of the game actually becomes progressively more complex, with the climax of that being Void and Runner, and then it starts having a falling action where the Fate and Flux has simpler, and then Fate ultimately has the simplest control scheme, as well as for Fate and Flux in particular, like, all the beats are the same color. So, like, it even further drops the complexity of that game to almost the same level as the first one, while at the same time retaining the same, it's less punishing as you go along. So yeah, that's Bit.Trip.Complete in a nutshell. I would like to switch up to Killer 7, which also, again, has a really fascinating way of depicting using controls to its advantage in a way of conveying its story, but in my opinion, in a very opposite direction from Bit.Trip.Complete. Whereas Bit.Trip.Complete was supposed to make you feel the story, Killer 7 takes the opposite approach of making you feel alienated with the story. So let's jack up the volume on that game too, because holy crud, the music in that game is amazing. Honestly, actually, I would like to start off at that screen once we get the controller working, because it's definitely worth watching the entire introduction where the company logo shows up.
And it might be a minute or two.
Do we have the audio from the PC streaming? Can we actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just nothing's happening right now.
Yeah, there's no music. Okay, that's fine.
Wait, do I need to click into? Elgato. Give me 1 second to unplug Elgato, so
yeah,
make sure I'm actually unplugging it.
I'm gonna transition a little bit. There we go.
No, we did transition.
I know. We're switching back to technical difficulties.
It's ready though.
Do we want to connect the projector as well?
Yeah. Oh,
that's the wrong cord, man.
Shoot. Is this out? What is that? This is out.
We're almost done.
This.
We're just making sure everyone in the room can see this.
Yeah, this setup is very annoying, but we got it working.
All right, cool, perfect. All right.
Am I able to make this full screen?
I think this is the best you're gonna do.
All right. Oops. Are we set? Yep, we're good.
Wow, it really looks kind of not so great. That's all right. So we're actually seeing this. I like to toss the control to someone else once we get to the tutorial. But I mentioned earlier the start screen is worth looking at this. Is OBS actually streaming properly? Yeah, it should be. Oh, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it on Chris's screen. I'm being an idiot. Here we go. All right, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, you can see it in a minute. Oh, no, you cannot. There you go. That should work.
Licensed by Nintendo. This game contains mature subject matter and graphic displays of violence. Graphic displays.
How is the volume?
Chris,
What?
how's the volume?
Pretty good.
So the audio design in this game is my favorite of all games of all time. Just that start screen in particular, I'm pushing all the buttons. Oh, it's this button. Just that start screen in particular is really shocking, and it kind of tells you what you're getting into. And like even this menu is freaking amazing. It's like, oh my god, what's going on? I don't know. It's amazing. Anyways, so I mentioned earlier that Killer 7 takes decidedly an opposite approach from Bit.Trip.Complete. Like, when you were playing the game Bit.Trip.Complete with me, John, what do you think? Do you think, like, the game was actively fighting against you, or do you think that it was trying to, like, you were trying to play with the game? Was it trying to remove the controller from your experience as much as possible?
It was kind of hard to, I don't know, like, my individual experience was, I was fine with it a lot.
I'm talking about Flux in this case, though.
Yeah, like when I was playing it, like I was finding it pretty hard to control. I don't know if that's just like a visual thing because I found it hard differentiating between our two paddles.
I see. But yeah, the intent behind Bit.Trip.Complete is to really remove the controller in a way, because like the way Flux especially is designed, and I want to say Core and Beat as well, is that they want you to feel the rhythm of the game as much as possible. Like the rumble that I was talking about, the music, the beats, which comes in very specific intervals and so forth. And it's a lot of pattern recognition, pattern memorization, and then execution that the game takes. So all of that is supposed to add up to, like, you're supposed to kind of forget that the controller is in there in your hand, and you're just part of the game. Killer 7 reminds you have a controller in your hand in so many ways. We're going to go with normal because holy crud, this game can get hard. It is decidedly not a hard game per se. So here's how you actually choose your missions. You'll get a couple of lists of missions. We are emulating this. We do have an actual copy here at Tech Value Game Space, so we have legally purchased this game. But I choose a mission. And then, for whatever reason, I now have to push another button by looking at this guy. Let's just choose his hand right here. Yeah, that's a good place. That reads Tenshi, by the way. Also known as Angel, which is a mission name. And then we have to stare at this moon.
Is this a loading screen or is that a cutscene?
No, this is a cutscene. This is how you start the game. It's not 4K resolution. I think you can actually stretch the resolution of this game. I'm not going to ask you to do it now, but that's fine. Just to let all of you know, this is a GameCube game from the renowned developer Suda51, or Suda Goichi. Story so far, we're an assassin. We have a mission offered to us by Christopher Mills. Might as well give that out of the way because you only see that in the manual. The rest of it, good luck. I mean, seriously, good luck. I stopped even trying to figure out the story of this game. It is so weird and confusing.
It's me. So you there yet?
You mean this city?
That's where they all hang out. Our information tells us that there's 14 of them.
And they're all fine.
Ah, I keep one alive so we can ask who the boss is.
Anything else I should know?
Nah, not really. You'll know when you see them. They're, different.
Will do.
May the Lord smile.
The devil have mercy.
When did this come out?
Good question. A free-for-all fight in the multi-purpose faculty Celtic building. Destroy the Heaven Smile headquarters and capture the chief alive.
The text reflection's interesting.
Yes, we're gonna go through the tutorial.
Was that voice?
Yes.
Okay.
And here I'm gonna toss it to John. This is the tutorial. All right, John. Before we talk about the controls in this game, let's talk about conventional controls. What do you normally expect general video game controls to be?
I'm like dealing with. Okay. I normally expect like the
Left stick
left stick and right stick.
to move. Yep, this game you have to hold the A button to move. It is entirely on rails. And you are going to curse that control scheme for the rest of your life as you're playing this game. So if it's not obvious, all the enemies are in fact invisible and you must scan them.
How do you scan?
Yours scanned, they're now visible.
Is he dead?
So he's dead. And then, learn the controls again? No, we're good. Alright, you can toss the control back to me. So, yeah, hold A to move forward, press B to turn around. It is the most confusing control scheme ever. Hold R to look around and shoot, hold L to scan, and that's what exactly that does. Start allows you to switch between different characters. Here we have our suspect. We need to kill this turquoise shirted guy. And we're going to move forward.
So is it like on rails or?
Yes.
Yeah.
But as mentioned earlier, this is a game that practically reminds you that you're holding a controller. Because every single moment, you're going to be reminded of how cumbersome the controls
You don't want
are.
to go any further. It's dangerous. My friends are all dead. They were all murdered by people that look like this. I have been chosen.
Shit. There's more than 14. Those bastards are breathing.
So he turned into Dan Smith.
Yep. So you were asking a question earlier. Is that voice? The answer is yes. So, fun fact, in the actual Japanese version, they do speak English. They speak hilariously broken English. So that's why they covered it up with this weird filter system. But quite frankly, I think it works to its advantage. So, like for example, here Iwazari says we're in a tight spot. The original English says it is dangerous. It is dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. It's like, really? That's your English today? And then Harmon's room usually ends up being your save point, which is interesting because every Harmon room kind of looks the same. Let's see. That's kind of acting like a point-and-click adventure right there when it comes to choosing between different paths that you want to take. Okay, we don't have any
Throwing
blood.
an awful lot of stuff at you.
Yeah, it does. So according to the developers, they actually came up with the story first before they writing the, you know, making the actual game, which you would think is the more logical place to start first, but it does make up for this really strange and aggressive game. I think there is... So that audio cue, that means that an enemy is approaching. And here it is, we have our first enemy. There's a little weird sparkling glowing spot, that's the enemy's weak spot. Let's see if you can hit it. Controls are not like me. There we go. And if you do that, you kill the enemy in one hit. You might notice that on the dial on the lower left-hand corner turned up to 10 units. That's our experience points. They're called thin blood, I believe. Or thick blood. I think it's thick blood. We should reload. Thick blood. And like I said, you can convert that to actual experience points to power up your characters. Aha! You are also in the head. This is Travis. I'm gonna ignore you. And that is Kikizaru up there. Fun fact, so Iwazaru is Japanese for the Speak No Evil monkey. Speak No Evil. Or Speak Monkey or whatever. It roughly translates as Speak Monkey, but it's supposed to be the Speak No Evil monkey. Kikizaru is Hear No Evil monkey. And depending on how far we get into the game, we might be able to encounter the last one, which is See No Evil. Camellia Smile, which I think we can disregard.
We got a question for Twitch.
Yes?
Since when isn't Shoot the Face a good idea?
In this game, actually, Shoot the Face is not a good idea. There are... Is that... Where's the weak spot on that? Is it the head?
It's like the neck.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay.
What? Egg?
Yep, there's an egg. We'll worry about that later.
Moving.
Okay, there's a lot of waver. The accuracy sucks in this game.
Can you use B to lock on?
Oh yeah, it locks on the center of the character, which is not useful. Alright, it's running away. No! Darn. Camellia Smiles give you a lot of blood, so I don't have to farm nearly as much. Okay, that's not useful. So here's a new mechanic that they introduced. If you talk to Iwazaru, he talks about this. They actually crawl faster than they do run. Yikes. Might as well reload real quick right there. The shaders are really cool in this game. So this is a charge attack, which you can tap by tapping the Y button. Oh, pro tip, when that happens, if you pause, the enemies won't animate, but the flash will. So that's an easy way of dissipating the flash so that it doesn't hurt you nearly as much. So yeah, that's what happens when you get hurt. And then to recover health, you just have to use the same blood that you used for power-ups to re-heal your health, which is, as you can see, depicted on the eyeball on the left-hand corner. That's just a duplicator, an angling heaven smile. Thanks, Travis. Refitted to clamp down on the city. This sucker pumped out the countless duplicates. That took this country down. Hey, Smith. It's your job to eradicate Heaven Smiles, right? So, then seek the Queen. The Smith syndicates are the only ones that can actually see Heaven Smiles. The Gatekeeper is in charge of the Queen because Heaven Smiles are invisible. Give this to the Gatekeeper. He won't be disappointed. Yeah, we got a soul shell.
Sound effects are very, like... I'm trying to remember what it's like reminding me of, but it's like pretty Lynchian.
Yeah,
all the chords it hits, like, you know.
It's super bizarre. Yeah, this game is very Lynchian. I'm gonna ignore all these characters. Head. Okay, jaw. You know what, this is actually a good opportunity too. Why not? I'm gonna die on purpose here. This is kind of... Dying is kind of an important mechanic here. I'm gonna die as close to the initial starting point as possible.
How can you tell what your health is at?
The eyeball closes. In theory, because we went into this room... Oh yeah, we don't have a save state, do we? This is going to be interesting. We're going to find out what happens when you don't have a memory card and you try to die. I think what happens is it takes it back to the last Harmon room. Well, let's just go the other way because at least that's on the way. That's the death screen. You might notice that's a really strange death screen. That also spells out death in Japanese kanji. It's very clever.
Don't make me say it again. I'm a cleaner.
Oh, that's all you say? Okay. So we saw this character before. Not Harmon. Darn it, what's your name again? I feel terrible because you're actually a really important character. Garcian, there we go. So we're playing Garcian right now.
How many characters are you able to play as?
You can pretty much play all 7 of them right off after a certain point in the game. And they're simple, they're really easy to switch between. I just didn't bother. So now that I picked up...
I can feel no remorse in a dead body. To me, it's really cold, rotting flesh.
So that's an interesting thing that I wish I can go into more detail. I need to tap the A button rapidly. Yay! Yeah, let's select him. So death is literally just a slap on the wrist. It's super goofy, but I just love the animations behind it and how weird it is in general. But yeah, if you're curious, just by hitting the start menu and selecting any one of these, I can any non-grayed out character I can easily switch between. Come on. We'll talk about leveling up after I collect enough blood. Because there is a level up system here. But again, I remind you that throughout this entire game, I cannot see the enemies. I have to use sound cues to figure out where they are. I have to... Are they coming? I heard a scream. That's pretty much the worst this game is gonna get for the first level. Oh, hey. Your character. Arm. Oh. Okay. You do that, I forgot. Ouch. We have one blood. So you can easily gather those small bloods. Oh, yeah, by the way. Here's our wonderful head right here. Yeah, right there. It might be a better idea to switch between Kaede. Kaede. Who has a scope. Yeah. So that's our victim. She has easily the slowest reload time. So that's how this game compensates. How much? Yeah, no, we can wait for a little longer. Oh, good. Micro smile. Is that on the head? Yep, it is. Oh, come on. We've already saw the micro smile all the way there, so we might as well take a shot at it. There we go. I believe by doing that, that unlocks all the characters right off the bat. So we got Kevin. Kevin is interesting because so far you've noticed that all the characters have some form of waver. He shoots very slowly, but his bullets has absolutely no waver whatsoever. So that's interesting. There's Coyote, Con, and Mask. Mask is another interesting character worth talking about. Oh, hi, Travis. We're gonna ignore you. Yep. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Head. Kevin victims always age a lot. Alright, I guess that didn't work out for me. I could just burn them all with Mask. Mask also has a ridiculously long reload time. But the important thing about him is... Oh, that didn't sound good. What's going on there?
You gotta help me.
Ooh, ouch. That didn't look good. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to do that. Turn around. Just make sure we're reloaded. Alright, let's shoot to his feet. There we go. So that's how Mask works. He just burns everyone with his grenade launchers. And then I skipped over Con. He's usually fan favorite. He levels up the fastest easily. There's Yoon Hoon. We're gonna ignore him for now. This is not ignorable. Everything is transparent, so I held his hand. Whose hand was it? Then, before I knew it was lost again, please help me. I can't see a thing. That's Bloody Sunday, I think is his full name. I don't... Was it Chris Bloody Sunday? I don't remember.
Kane Dragon says, when they said you get ahead at this job, I'm not sure it's not what you had in mind.
So here's how the communication works. They send pigeons. Who would have thought? In a game where cell phones exist, they send us pigeons for communication. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, and many thanks for choosing for your job. My name is John Gannon. otherwise known as Speedster. We'll just call him Speedster. I get excited when I slit a guy's throat. That's good to know. I know that may be sick, but I do the best work in town. Here's a report on the job. I hope you like what I have to say. I watch them like a hawk, so I have a hefty reward in order. There are 7 in the Smith Syndicate. Dan Smith, who uses a large caliber revolver. Kaede Smith, who uses a large automatic rifle. That was not an automatic rifle, that was a pistol with a scope. Con Smith, who uses 2 full auto pistols. Master Smith, who uses grenades. Kevin Smith, who uses knives. Coyote Smith, who uses a modified gun. Garson Smith, who uses a small pistol. That's a silencer, by the way. They are an armed force that rivals a small army. You don't want to be on their bad side. In conclusion, it is into the interest of the United States to keep them around, not telling when they might come in handy. I'll be contacting you again, Johnny Gannon. So again, you're basically a group of assassins. Oh yeah, if you haven't noticed, by the way, so this is what it looks like when your character runs into a dead end. It just looks really silly. Harmon's room. I think this would be a good time to talk about leveling up. So leveling it up is done by... Okay, so by the way, you might notice that Samantha stopped being an option. That's because when the room is well lit for whatever reason, she refuses to save her game. So we have about 307 deciliters of blood. We have to enter it into the blood room. That blood capacity does cap at, I believe, 500 deciliters. So it's probably a good idea. So that creates serum, and then from there we can select a character. I'm going to choose Coyote in this case. You can say select, it's skills, and then you can just power up each and every single one of these. Yeah, let's do that. So I have now a down attack, and you can see how much vials each of these take. The other character that I usually like to level up. Oh, whoops! I didn't mean to switch to him. Oh yeah, I should mention switching characters on the TV is a little different for whatever reason.
Wait here.
Power and waver and your criticals are kind of important to me. So waver obviously reduces the wavering of your hand. Power increases the power of how much of your bullets. Speed, I think, is related to how quickly you shoot. I might be wrong on that. Alright. Yeah, there's a... Oh, gosh. Alright, I'm walking out. F that. I'm gonna switch to Mask. He has the most HP. Alright, that got rid of all of them. Is it worth talking to you yet? Not yet. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that this game has like really constrained controls. You would normally think that that would make this game a horror game, but it's not really. It's more like the developers calls it a noir game, but this is a great moment. Yep. Our enemy is right there in close quarters. So like that kind of creates this really silly dynamic where like every once in a while the game will just kind of jump scare you for no reason particular. Okay, I think that works. Let's switch it up to Kong for a minute because I do like this character a lot and I like to talk about him. Yeah, this is our puzzle. We gotta flush the toilet. The toilet has no water. Oh my goodness, what can we possibly do? So puzzles in this game makes no sense whatsoever. This game was not directed. was assisted by Shinji Mikami, you know, developer of Resident Evil series. Yeah, he's just really fast at shooting. Also has the least amount of health. But yeah, Kon is fan favorite largely due to his fast shooting and really getting through a lot of tight spots. Just gonna go right through here. Hopefully we can get our first item so that we can actually solve these puzzles. So puzzles in this game is an absolute joke. Oh, you can hear the music. Perfect. Everyone ready for this? The best character in town! Oh no, it's a puzzle. The dryer's on. What should we do? We should turn it off. Okay, yes, let's turn it off. We're gonna turn off the dryer. And we're gonna meet our first, everyone's favorite character. A talking decapitated head. Yeah, it's a very cloudy day today, which is really too bad. Not a day to hang out in the laundry. A great day to use a dryer, though. I don't understand why. But you know, I just love this one. Okay, yeah, whatever you say, Susie. I'll never have anybody have it. You know why? Well, you should. I love to stay inside. You left this behind, didn't you? Thanks, Susie. If you finished up your business, could you hurry up and leave? You're very much in the way. Of what? Assassin should have better manners. Fine, Susie, we'll just close it. Stay there. Alright, so items allows you to switch between different rings. In this case, we want a fire ring on. Oh, whoops. Oh, I can see that forming right there. Yeah, there's a lot of swearing in this game. And then we get to only reason why Coyote even exists at all. He's our locksmith. He's actually a thief, but he does have one more ability besides opening locks, but that's gonna be his only purpose in life for now. He's not a very useful character because his recoil is terrible. His swears are also terrible too. Okay, we should talk about you and Kyun. It is actually a good opportunity to do so. Oh, like old times. You tell me, how's old Smith? Things going good with Mills, no? That old Smith, not much of a successor. You mean Harmon Smith, but a good man, yes. Thank you. Much gratitude. Ready for today's hint? So he's our hint guy. I checked the candlesticks. A strange design indeed. It is hidden here. The order is hidden here. You want to know more? Then use this mask. Which means to shoot it. Shoot the mask and the mask will tell you. It is the true mask. But watch out, this mask lusts for blood. Thicker blood. Demon lust for blood, yes? Oh, it is called thick blood if they're HP, or if they're EXP. If you're brave, shoot the mask. I think we're already pretty brave. It'll tell you everything. So, what he's talking about is there's a room 212 right here. This is a puzzle room. I ignored it because we didn't have a, Okay, yeah, here it is. So this is a puzzle room, and this is the puzzle. We didn't have the fire ring before, so what it will do is it'll just tell you, huh, that's weird. But now that we have a fire ring, we can finally turn on these candles. And oh my god, what order should I turn these candles on? Chris, you tell me. Look at the screen. Which one should I turn on first?
4.
Okay, I did 4.
That's 4? I don't, this was 4.
This is 4, yes.
So then which one did you turn on?
1. Then 2. You're catching the drift, right? Which one should I turn on next?
3. You're supposed to go in numeric order?
Yeah.
4, 5.
And we solved the puzzle.
That's the same combination as my
Shelf. So we got an odd engraving from this. Like, literal. If you're playing on normal mode, that is literally gonna be all puzzles. There are some memorization puzzles, but I'm not gonna go too far into detail about that. Okay, we should be coming out from here. Oh, neck. I really don't like this character a lot. I'm gonna switch to Con. So yeah, this is basically the game in a nutshell. I think the only other part I really want to bring out is why a lot of people seem to like this game. I personally like this game for its really wacky controls. Really wacky controls and really hard to comprehend story, actually, as well. Let's see. We have 100 deciliters. I think we're fine. Nope. I'm not gonna care. Just heading straight for the bathroom. The most important part of the duty as an assassin is to set off the fire alarm. Because that's what you do. Now we can flush the toilet. Yeah, we did it! We flushed the toilet! Toilet flushed. Because that's just how puzzles work in real life. And then we have to go back to the dryer room.
Kane wants to know laundry day?
Yes. Are they? Oh, okay. They apparently disappeared. Good to know. So one thing I didn't talk about, when you encounter a puzzle, this is what happens. So you get a guitar riff letting you know that you don't have all the puzzle elements. As it turns out, that door asked for an odd engraving, so all we need to do to get an odd engraving is to get the one that the toilet flushed. Because of course, that's where every assassin hides their important key items. It only makes sense. So this game is actually pretty camp. Like, there's a lot of like self-awareness in it, in its own ridiculous, preposterous logic. Yeah, we did it. Just kind of... Oh, okay, that actually scared me. Oh, hey, look at that, a cracked wall. What do you think we should be doing right there? Maybe we should be blowing it up. So Mask is obviously capable of blowing up walls. I think that's it. Is that what I think it is? Oh yeah, it is. I think if you just burn that, that's going to be the rare smile that actually gives you blood. Yep, I'm right. Yeah, we got a lot of blood. We're not gonna need that carrier pigeon. Okay, yeah, this is actually a good line to talk about. I like this one. I was chief as an Oz first catch. I can still remember the chief's quivering hand. The pain went straight up my spine and then back down again. To be honest, that felt good. So he's talking about how the chief killed him. All these characters that you see that are dead and are basically ghosts, those are called remnants, I think, and they are all the people you killed. And an interesting line of thought that happens for each person that you kind of see appear before you. By the way, so that is that name right there of the pigeon is a reference to the James Bond girls' names. So that is not a reference to a cat. That is actually a reference to a real fictional character. Excuse me, not real, fictional character. I actually completely skipped over that career. I completely forgot about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's just go out. Hopefully we'll get to the end, which is really where this kind of game comes to its own. Harmon's room, yeah, let's go in there. So this is yet another Harmon's room where you can't save. You might notice that all of these doors leads to the same room for some reason. This is something worth noting because there's a point where that game goes like starts taking that to its troll logic. Like you'll find a porta potty in a desert, you enter it, and it's Harmon's room.
Wait here.
I think we lost John.
That's fine. Yeah, that's gonna be fine. Kaede is really good. Range, I think that is something I care about for Mask. Also, I should just switch to a faster character. So I'm skipping a lot of dialogue, if you couldn't notice. They're actually genuinely interesting to read through. Generally speaking, this game kind of is self-knowingly English in a lot of places, which is worth talking about because compared to other characters, like Travis speaks normally. Yeah, we're not doing a good job saving these people. So, an interesting thing about how Killer 7 utilizes cinematics is that most games kind of use cinematics either to move forward the story or show off some really fancy action sequences. Killer 7's route of taking cinematics is to kind of show you things you have no control over, which makes it really satisfying to watch because you're like, what just happened? And that kind of helps the game in a way. Because a lot of this game is like, what just happened? So it's just one mystery after another. Oh, okay, let's hope that I get the weak spot, which it seems to be on the leg if I'm seeing this correctly. Yes, I do. Okay, cool. That was not good. Alright, Kizaru's right there. That usually means there's something right here. Kaede does have a special ability, which will hopefully show off right here. Which involves slitting her wrist to make Mizaru, that's the last, the see no evil monkey I was talking about, That's the last character we need to show up. And we finally get a soul shell, which is unfortunately a requirement. I also really love this camera angle, by the way. I think... Oh yeah, we have 12 of those. We're gonna be fine. Oh, oops. Great camera angles. I went a little too soon because we need to destroy that, I think. Puzzle solved. Let's switch back to my favorite character and hopefully speed run through the rest of these. We're a little over halfway through the level, honestly. Oh. What was in that room? I don't think there's anything in that room that we actually need. Legs. Oh, that was our down attack. That's useful. Alright, well, I guess... Oh, whoops. Wait, that exploded on us? Crap. So, this is another point where we need to use Kaede. Travis will give us a hint that we're supposed to use Kaede, and the important thing about that is we need to know the code. She is now going to suck up the blood off of the wall into her wrist. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Here's our code! It's NO! Can you remember that? NO. You gotta remember this for me, Chris. I think we'll be fine.
What?
Do you remember the code?
NO.
Yes. Oh, right here, right here. What? Let's see, where is it? This dial is really weird. Left, kind of go counterclockwise. N. Oh, okay. Correct input. We did it. Thanks, Chris. With your amazing memorization abilities, we've been able to complete this game. Yeah, okay, yeah, this is, I think, the second to last one. Is it coming? Yes. Alright, I failed miserably there. Okay. You be that way. Leg. Cool. Nope, I'm not gonna care. We should have a couple of blood now, so... Oh, 193. That's a lot less than I thought we had. I'm gonna go with mask first. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with mask first. And then, I think his crits matters most. Crits increases the range of how large those weak points are, so that it makes it easier to actually critical hit enemies. Did I go backwards? No, I didn't. I'm going in the right direction. I swear we're pretty darn close. Yes, okay, here. So this is also everyone's favorite music of the game. We got the Gatekeeper where we need to give him all the soul shells. I think we got everything. To the Vinculum Gate. All received. Go right on inside. So he just rejects you if you don't have all of them. But now that we do, that means that we can easily go to the right room right here. So if anyone's curious, just Google search Ray Vaughn Killer 7, and this music's called Ray Vaughn, like I said. It's an amazing song. I love it. Also, it only exists in that hallway. It is the greatest song devoted only to a single hallway. This room is also interesting too, because you're like, where am I gonna go? You're gonna go here. Lord knows why. You have no choice. You have to go there. Hi, Bloody Sunday. Caught up with you anyway. Kill it before it explodes. I'm going to die again today. Somebody please help me. Wow, for a ghost to keep dying. So that's actually a solution to the last boss right here. This is basically a mini boss of sorts.
Does it have a lot of health? Or?
Yeah, it does. There it is. It's gone. It does have a weak spot, but I'm being a jerk, and I'm like, I just want to get over this battle fast. So this is the backside of Vinculum Gate. And we're gonna go out to the hallway. So you might remember that this is really just a big building, because if I just exit here, I'm just back here. So the Vinculum Gate is completely gone. Nobody knows what it is. Oh wait, how many blood do we have? We don't have a whole lot, that's fine. I'm gonna go up the elevator. Oh, it might have been a good idea to head into that harmony, because I could possibly die here. I think this might be an interesting point in the conversation too. Oh, there you are. Don't be shy, Amir. Huh, why'd you call us Amir? Who would have figured you'd be the only survivor? Well, anyway, are you getting along with Chief? Chief being Harmon. Straight up, I was waiting for you. Yeah, I know. Don't be so mad, man. Don't glare at me like that. The Chief will wake you up. Really, I'm sorry. The other Chief must be rolling on the floor with laughter. I don't know what you're talking about. So already, like, you have a mystery. Oh, right. Bloody Sunday's gonna let us know how to defeat the next enemy. You stole the wings, and then a woman glared at me with a stern look. But I didn't run away. Then I saw it. On the woman's back were faces. They were smiling. So that's an important clue, but more importantly, You might want to memorize how each of these characters' portraits look like, because we're gonna go into weird land very quickly. We're getting to our final first boss fight. That is an anti-turret gun, by the way.
Please, be careful, sir.
That's our chief. By the way, Harmon Smith controls exactly what we expect.
Sacred place. Our 4 children served their purpose. They didn't die in vain. But our other 9 children were killed by you. What do you want from us? Is it so bad that we have a purpose in life? We are only serving our gods. At heaven's command, we will kill the unwanted. We must get rid of bad trees from their roots. I hope you are not one of them.
Good night, child. It's past your bedtime.
So yeah, we have suddenly gotten into anime territory, and I have no idea why. So how to basically complete this boss of sorts is to clip its wings. You might notice that Bloody Sunday talked about clipping out its wings, so this is what we're doing.
You think you killed me? Better think again.
And hey, thanks cutscene for showing us what the weak spots are. I don't like Dan. Yep, that's literally it. That's the boss fight. Do you feel the excitement? This is everything that we've been building up to. So, Killer 7's bosses are really silly like this, where it's just puzzle bosses one after another. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think the North Hallway is the way out. Yeah, we're in the right place. Hi, Harmon. So this kind of makes sense, like the controls is now in the A and the B button situation because we're obviously a character who's in a wheelchair. So I think like they made this control scheme with this character in mind at the beginning, and they just forced everyone else to be under that control scheme. But like I said, it works really well for this game, where a lot of things in this game makes you feel like you're not really in control of the situation. And the controls of the game, of course, remind you of this constantly. I can't move any forward. This is dead end. So we can try to, you know, aim. I think the... We stink. Oh, here it is.
Oops. I guess my trick didn't work on you. Tricks are for kids. I'm an old man.
Hi, Kun.
Yes. Nothing has has changed for 30 years. No matter how many times you try, the result will be the same. Yes. Like our chess games, you always seem to win. Do you know why? You tell me. Because you're a bad player. A new generation of children will bring order to the sage. You're a good friend, but unfortunately, our interest is not mutual. We both have become burdened with so much, and we don't have time for fun anymore. There's always time for fun. It's Friday night. Let's dance.
So who saw that cinematic and knew exactly what was going on? Raise your hand. No, I don't get it either. Your guess is as good as mine. So just to let you know, I can shoot anywhere, and it's exactly as if I'm trying to shoot the angel. But we can also shoot his hand. He literally catches the bullet.
And rode with it. So we find out he has a hover ship.
Yeah. So that's Angel. So I didn't have much time to ask you this question, but oh no, I did. Now that you've seen the entire level and you've played through the tutorial, imagine yourself playing through that entire level, John. What would you have thought?
I don't think I would have gone through this game. It's interesting. Like, the story seems like I would really like it, but the gameplay seems
so alien.
It seems like very detrimental to. I don't know. I mean, maybe it does feel a lot like. I don't know. It's the kind of game where I feel like I would probably do something like this if I wanted to, like, just have a weird story and make it feel.
Like, I think when people are going to be researching into this game, which I have done this before, like, you'll watch the story and you'll be like, okay, kind of thing. It's like, that was interesting. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I definitely feel that when you play the game, first off, the game, I'm not going to lie, is not exactly on the fun side of things. And I think that actually works to the game's favor, in my personal opinion. Because it plays like nothing. It is probably the most alien game I've ever played. I mentioned earlier that the game is supposed to be a mystery, but its puzzles are hilariously bad. Its shooting mechanics is hilariously bad. You have to hold down the R button to aim, then you have to press the L button to scan. Then you have to figure out where the weakness of that zombie is, and then press the aim and then press the A button. It's like there's a lot of button combinations to do it, and in a lot of ways it kind of borrows a lot of elements from a couple of other games. Another game that I can think of where the shooting is that cumbersome is Metal Gear series, Metal Gear Solid, but that works. Metal Gear series in particular was the shooting mechanics was intentionally bad for the purpose of making sure that the focus of the game was more on stealth. And likewise in this game, but like in this game, that's not really the reason for having such a cumbersome thing. It feels more to me like you have less control over your situation. Like you're just going from one set piece to you're forcefully going into one set piece from another without much decision making into it. So it's aggressively a linear video game. But whereas like you would play say other games, I don't know, like Mario games or something like that, that kind of makes you feel like you have a little bit of freedom in the gameplay of things. Like you have a freedom on the timing of when you jump, or like open world games that makes you feel like you have a freedom on how to explore, or even like creator godlike games where you're, whether it's Spore, Sims game where you kind of have like you get to kind of control how the denizens of that world lives in. This game takes an exactly opposite approach of that. It's sort of a deconstruction in that sense of forcefully making you go through an aggressively linear story, an aggressively linear, gameplay, and it doesn't give you much choice in it. But it does it in a way that makes you think you have a choice. Like aiming gives you a little bit of freedom, right? The puzzles, you could potentially say no in solving them. You have to still solve them anyways to progress through the game.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So it manages to get that really weird middle ground. I do kind of, I don't know, I'm debating about this. Do we want to go through a Metal Gear Solid length of cutscene?
It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
so
let's not do it. I mean, everyone can look for this on YouTube,
yeah.
but trust me when I say this, you are missing out on watching the YouTube stuff. Depending on who you are, you might end up loving this game a lot. I am one of them.
Also, I guess keep in mind that it is pretty, triggering or whatever.
Oh yeah, it is a very violent game. When it says it covers a lot of mature subjects, it is not lying. There are a lot of really creepy topics that I really don't want to go too much into detail about. But yes, as John correctly pointed out, there is a lot of triggering topics that the game covers. But that said, it is without a question a game that plays and feels like no other. I have yet to see a game that aggressively, that is so aggressively linear, and not in like a visual novel that doesn't give you any choices kind of linear. Like it tries to make you think that you have control over your situation, but then you're constantly reminded you don't. Level of aggressive is really fascinating to me. So yeah, those are the two games that, like I said, I was really inspired by, and often design my games kind of thinking to the effect of where I want to achieve, right? So Bit.Trip.Complete being a game about integrating controls as a way of making you feel a specific way, and then Killer 7 doing precisely the opposite, using controls to make you feel nearly the opposite of what the game wants you to think. And with that, creating a far bigger mystery that the game, the game creators themselves has admitted they wanted to create. They wanted to create basically a noir-like mystery game. So yeah, that's what I argue.
Cool. Well, thank you, Taro, for taking us through those games.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to hear your perspective. I definitely want to check out, probably replay Bit.Trip a little bit. And I mean, I have Killer 7 downloaded now. I might actually play through it a little and see. But yeah, anyway, so next week, I think next week's going to be another devs play. We have to just keep negotiating. I think I need to actually just like reach out and make sure they're all set.
Right.
The week after that is Ludum Dare, I believe.
Correct.
So, and then I think there's like a conflict the week after. So I think we'll have devs play next week and then potentially 2 weeks without stream. Or, I don't know, we might delay it. We might have another day. We'll play by ear. But anyway, so thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you all.
Have a good night.